What's going on YouTube? This is Rybo at the bench, and today I have a cut or carry knife review for you, looking at the Real Steel Sidus. I don't know how to pronounce that, S-I-D-U-S, Sidus. I will try not to say it again on the video. This one is the shredded Moonglow carbon fiber, something like that. They do have like a copper shredded something, which is pretty cool, but this is the one that I'll say glows in the dark. It glows in the dark if you charge it up for a while and kind of sit there and hold the flashlight on it. It does have this nice backspacer that glows fairly well, but it's a little gimmicky to say that it glows in the dark because, like, technically it does, but you really have to sit there and charge it up for a while, and then it doesn't really last very long. It does look very cool when it's charged up. I will say that. I'm not a carbon fiber guy. I think that this looks really, really nice, not glowing. I think that just looks really cool like it is. It does look really cool when you charge it up, but it's just not something you're going to see unless you charge it up and kind of intend to. This has a full flat ground D2 blade, which you can see right there. It has this kind of open hole deployment here. Really nice slicey blade. You can see fairly thick stock for the carbon fiber here, and you have skeletonized full liners on a liner lock, deep-ish carry pocket clip, but a fold-over clip, which I always like. And then you have this kind of, I forget what you call this windowed pivot, but this open pivot, which is really interesting. So yeah, that's the knife. Let's do some size checks, bring in the scale, take a look at what we're seeing. So this is a fairly large knife, not super heavy, but you do have the full liners that are skeletonized, 4.3 ounces, which is not awful. And then for that 4.3, you're looking at about 3.5 inches in terms of sharpened blade length. In the pocket, you've got 4.6 inches and a fairly thick handle of 0.61, 0.62, somewhere in there, kind of depending on where you measure. So a fairly thick handle material. Usually my ideal is, right around a 1/2 inch in the pocket. All right, so what are the things that I like about this knife? Well, to start off with, I'm just going to say that my conclusion on this is that this would be, if you are someone who is on a budget but you like knives, and you've heard a lot about the TRM Atom, this would be your very vanilla corners cut budget Atom. You have an incredibly slicey, very, very nice full flat ground blade, really, really nice. You have these, fairly ergonomic handle that's got something interesting going on with the scales, and it carries, okay for what it is. And so you're looking at $60, $70. And so, if you're looking at an Atom because you've seen a lot of the hype and you want something that is going to be just as slicey, I have tried both. This is just about as slicey. This is a very, very thin blade stock, and just really, really nice blade. I was cutting up an apple the other day, and I was just slicing this into just razor thin little pieces. I mean, this cuts like an absolute dream. And so that's kind of the comparison that I'm going to draw on this knife. Granted, it's not as sexy as the Atom, but it does have a lot of similar characteristics. So things that I like, the blade is the number one thing. That is the best thing about the knife to me. That is the reason that I decided to pick it up in a trade anyway. Just an incredible, incredible blade. Other things that I like, I actually do like the look of this shredded carbon fiber. I think it's pretty cool. I'm not usually a carbon fiber guy, but I do think that's cool. I think that the whole Moonglow thing is a little gimmicky, but it's totally fine because you would never know that it's glow in the dark unless you kind of knew that about the knife. And so otherwise, it just looks like a pretty nice handle material. Other things, this knife is very ergonomic. I mean, it's got thicker material for the handles, and so that'll have its own, drawbacks, but that does make it very ergonomic. You have this really, really nice contouring here where your finger naturally goes, and I think that the handle is big enough. You have very, very nice jimping up here, which is really nice. I wish they had continued it, and the blade doesn't quite line up with the handle, but overall very, very comfortable to cut with. And so it does two things really, really well. It cuts very well, and it feels really nice in the hand. And so those are two things very important in a knife, obviously. So it does the basics very, very well. Other things that I like, I love a fold-over pocket clip, although this is not, completely deep carry. It's fairly deep carry, so I really, really like that. It's easy to get in and out of the pocket. Spring tension is just about right, and so that's really cool. Let's see. Otherwise, yeah, just another plug for the blade. The blade is incredible on this knife. Love that it has a sharpening choil. Love that it's just an awesome blade. Really, really sweet. And I like D2. D2's good. It's always been good for me. So I don't know anything about Real Steel's D2, but I have faith in it. All right, things that I don't like about the knife. So one, it's thick. This is a beefy knife. I would not say a joy to carry in the pocket. Definitely something that you're going to notice. Not terrible because it's not heavy, but it is not going to disappear and hide away in the pocket. You have a deep carry pocket clip that's honestly really far to the right. And so what that means is you're not really pushing that knife off to the side. And so this has a tendency in my pocket to kind of drift a little bit I guess I can show that closed. And with a Spyderco, that would kind of make sense because you have a lot of the knife kind of coming out. This one, really, you're tucking most of that blade into the handle. So I don't really understand why the pocket clip is so far off of this. Well, I guess I understand because of this. But I don't really, that's a drawback to me. I wish that the pocket clip were a little bit further over. There you go. It doesn't really bother me, but you can't move the pocket clip. Honestly, this is where I like to carry mine. I think this is where most people should carry theirs. But if you're left-handed, that's not fantastic for you. Yeah, there you go. Other things that I don't like. So, two more things. The hole here, the kind of open hole deployment, it does deploy fairly well, and you can get a handle in there. It's not a ton of material. If you look at something like the Chehalem here, it's not a ton of material, but I can reliably get my hand in there, and that's mostly due to this cutaway right here, which I just can't say enough good things about this. This right here is very, very well done. It's going to kind of do more of a gentleman's open. This is not going to be a knife that you purchase for action. It doesn't have any. I'm sure somebody can figure out, well, there you go, I just did it. I'm sure some people can reliably flick this. I think you can kind of flick it like that. But honestly, I tend to just kind of open it like this. It's reliable, it's fine, it's just not super exciting. Is it a drawback? I don't really know. It's just not a benefit of the knife. So if this is something you're looking to really, for the action, it's very, very smooth. It locks up nicely, but it's not really going to be a fidgety knife if that's something that's important to you. And the other thing that I'm not a huge fan of is this windowed pivot takedown thing. So what you have is you have a traditional bit in here, and then you have this slotted screw over here. And so what that means is you have to kind of hold one to key it and then unscrew here, which is just... I get why they did it. It's something different. Honestly, I just don't see the benefit. I think it's a drawback because you're going to have more dirt and grime get in there, and that's not where you want dirt and grime. If there's anywhere you don't want dirt and grime on a knife, it's at the pivot, and so that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Honestly, in the pocket, like lint and stuff could get caught up in there, and I don't really get that. Plus, it just makes it more annoying to take down. So, actually, it also limits where you can put this pocket clip. If you just had a traditional Torx bit here, you'd be able to move that pocket clip over a little bit, which would have been nice. So all in all, just like a little gimmicky to me, and I guess see why they did it, but it doesn't really make any practical sense. So I guess the reason they did it is just to look good or to be a little bit different. So yeah. Okay, so final takeaways on this knife. This is not for me. Now, in terms of cutting ability, this is for me. This is an excellent cutter, but this does not carry super well. It's pretty beefy. It doesn't really hide away in the pocket, and it's not something that I found myself reaching for. There's enough here that just doesn't make functional sense to me, like the windowed pivot here, that I just didn't really find myself reaching for it. However, that being said, like on paper, this is a solid knife. And even not on paper, even when I get it, I try it out. This is definitely a good knife for some people. The carbon fibers have never been my thing, but if that's your thing, and honestly, if you've been looking at something like the Atom for its slicing ability, this is a great option to check out as a budget piece to see if you like that. Now, granted, with the Atom, you're getting a lot of things that you're not getting with this knife, obviously, because you're paying two very different prices. One is the steel, which I believe is 20 CV, But the other thing is you're getting a nice thumb stud with really nice deployment. That's just not something that you're getting on this knife. You don't buy this knife for the deployment. You buy this knife for the sliciness and for this cool carbon fiber type thing. So cut or carry for me, this is a cut. I don't hate the knife. I don't really dislike it. It just doesn't really work for me. On paper, I think it's solid, but in the hand, while it feels good, I just don't find myself reaching for it. But yeah, there's my takeaway. I hope I don't get slammed for the Atom comparison, because that is kind of sacrilege between the two different price points. But there you go. All right, hope you have enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.